Welcome to the Butler Beat. I'm Ashley Davis. As the weather gets colder, the issue of homelessness becomes more apparent. I spoke with a couple guests at Wheeler Mission Ministries Emergency Shelter for Men to learn their stories. Wheeler Mission Ministries is just one shelter in Indianapolis that provides food and housing for those in need. According to Indiana Public Policy Institute, the biggest reason that people lose their home is because they lose their job. And for some people, it can be hard to find any job at all.
Yes, I've been an alcoholic since I was 18 years old. I've been in and out of jails and prison. I just got out of prison April 11th. I can't find a job because of my felonies.
While others may work but still struggle to live on their own again.
I'm still working. I'm still licensed, and I am working. I'm not working as many shifts as I'd like. Everything that I'm homeless, it takes 10 times more energy and time to accomplish.
And looking back, there is a lot they say they would have done differently.
Drinking, obviously, I wouldn't have done that. I've lost a lot of good jobs from drinking. I've lost family members. Just now started to get my daughters back into my life, which has been a blessing.
Wheeler Mission is just one of the shelters that is in need of volunteers to help organize the thrift store, clean, and serve food to those in need. But the guests say that one of the biggest helps would be letting people know where they can get food and clothing.
If somehow they get that out to people where they know where to get clothes, where they can get food. Because now knowing I know now, there's no reason for anybody in Indianapolis to go without clothes or food.
I'm here today with the Assistant Director of the Men's Residential Center at Wheeler Mission, Jared Nelson. Thank you for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, since it's getting colder outside, are you starting to see the shelter fill up more?
Yes, actually we are. During the colder seasons, we have a whole lot of people who want to get out of the cold and into someplace warm. So we do see an influx of people.
Is this your busiest time of year then?
For the most part, yes. Not just the holidays, but the whole winter long, up through the end of March, really.
Do you know how many homeless people there are in Indianapolis?
Latest statistics tell us about 1,600 individuals, men, women, and children, daily.
And are there enough spots in shelters for them?
Short answer, within our city, no. We're short, mainly to do with the growing demographics of women and children. There's not a ton of specific locations set up just for them. We have a women and children's shelter within ours, and there are several others in the city, but just can't meet the capacity.
Is there anything being done to maybe change that?
Well, I know we always evaluate our programming. A lot of it has to do with the facilities that we have and not being large enough to accommodate, because you have to accommodate both women and children in the same facility.
And can a shelter turn anyone down?
It depends on what type of shelter it is. We actually do have that ability because we are a nonprofit. We don't accept any state or federal funding. We don't do that often. We accept anybody who comes to our doors regardless of religion or background or anything along those lines. It's just a matter of safety, really.
What exactly does Wheeler Mission offer?
Well, a lot of times people look at us just for emergency shelter, overnight beds, or soup kitchen. That's usually what we get when we ask the general public what they think of us. But we do have a lot of residential programs within for women and men. We also have an addiction recovery program for women and men as well. So we do a whole lot more than just feed people and clothe people and house people.
And you have counseling services as well for guests?
Within those programs, yes.
And how many people can stay at Wheeler? Is there a limit to how long a person can stay?
Well, on most days, when we're not in the winter season where it's really cold out, we have approximately 300 beds altogether at the 5 residential type locations we have. During the winter time, we increase that to about an additional 200 mats that we can sleep people on the floor in various locations.
And do you have many people that don't stay there but come for meals?
Actually, yes, we do. I ran some numbers this morning before I came in, and let's see, we had about, altogether this year, about 3,000 individuals so far through the end of October who've come in and slept. But we've had about 6,000 individuals who've come in for service. So most often that's meals or clothing.
Okay, and you guys have a thrift store as well, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's down on the south side of Indianapolis. It's open to the general public, and we also have work therapy there for some of our residential programs as well.
So people can come and donate clothing to that location?
Mm-hmm. We actually have a donation center right next door to that. You can also donate at any of our facilities downtown, our Center for Women and Children, our Men's Residential Center, our primary locations.
And about how many children live in the Women's and Children's Shelter?
It fluctuates. I'd probably say on any given month we probably have about 20 who are there consistently. During the wintertime we do open up for emergency shelters, and we will have more than that.
And I know there's the Drumstick Dash coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of explain what that is and how Butler students could possibly get involved with that?
Yeah, the Drumstick Dash is a 4.5 run-walk event that we do in Broad Ripple. It's Thanksgiving morning, so it's before people get up and start cooking and all that stuff. It's a great family fun event. I've gone to it the past 4 years I've been employed there, and even a couple years prior to that. We have a whole lot of volunteer opportunities within for the Drumstick Dash before the event, the day before, and even the day of, with packet pickup and registration. I think we still have about 400 open slots still available for those 2 days. So if anybody's interested in doing that, they can go to our website, drumstickdash.org, and follow the links that'll get them connected to the right type of volunteering opportunities. Or they can register for the event themselves and run or walk it and have some fun, burn a little energy before they eat.
How many people usually run or walk in that?
Last year we had over 15,000 sign up for it, and we're expecting between 18,000 and 19,000 this year.
Okay.
It's our largest fundraiser for the whole year.
What are some other fundraisers you guys have throughout the year?
Well, we've tried a whole bunch of various different things. We've had a camp out event during the summertime. We've had golf runs and stuff like that. But we always evaluate what we do, see if it's financially responsible and if it brings back what we want. And a primary concern is informing the public about what we're doing in addition to raising the funding. So we look into what we can.
Are there any activities for the guests to participate in?
Yes, we have a whole lot of activities within. Most of them are geared towards biblical Christian teachings. So we have a lot of Bible studies, chapel services, personal study time, or small group type studies. We also take time to allow the individual to exercise and just play and have fun, because a lot of times we don't get to do that a whole lot as adults. So allowing them the opportunity to relax and exercise, play board games together, just exercise on the machines and stuff, allows them to kind of unwind a bit and relax a little bit more. Yeah.
So you have facilities where they can exercise?
Yes, we do. We also will take them to various locations or parks as well to allow them opportunities to do that.
And we typically see homeless people sitting on sidewalks downtown or standing on corners of busy intersections. Are any of those people not actually homeless and maybe just trying to make extra money?
Well, that's actually a really good question. A recent statistic that we have heard is that of those people who are panhandling, approximately less than 1% are actually homeless. So my best suggestion for anybody who is seeing those individuals is, first off, don't dismiss them, but still have compassion and love towards them, because we still want to care for them, but it might not be in a financial way. The best thing to do, if you see the person with the sign, "I'm hungry, I need some food," if you have the opportunity or the ability, just take them into a restaurant, McDonald's or Subway or someplace. If you can take them someplace nicer, you can do that too. And then sit down and have a conversation with them while they eat, because then you're going to provide for their need. If they're in need of food, you'll give them the food and you'll have conversation with them. You might even be aware of some of the organizations and places in the city that can address some of the issues they have and direct them directly to them during the time that you're with them. Or you can just direct them straight to Wheeler Mission or one of the other shelters if you're not comfortable taking somebody into a restaurant or going into a place like that.
Now, how hard can it be for someone who is homeless to get back on track?
It depends on the circumstances. Some individuals it can be relatively easy, others it can be fairly difficult. If you have an individual who's well educated, who's maybe run some businesses, just fell on hard times, no addiction issues, no felonies, no legal issues, that can be worked out fairly easily because usually they have the desire and the work ethic to move forward. If you have, on the other hand, a person who has some mental health issues or some social issues or legal issues or just not a very good work ethic, it can be very difficult to get those people to the employment opportunities that are available to them.
Now, do many of the guests at Wheeler work?
Yes, actually, well, let me phrase it this way. We have a lot of opportunities for them to work. Most of the time, it's kind of like a work therapy thing within our facility. Outside employment, it can be a little lower. But the goal for the work therapy is to get them in the mindset of this is what living responsibly is and how we work hard and diligently and we can be rewarded for that, and we want them to transpose that into their daily life for actual employment. And when they gain employment, they can stay in it.
And what exactly is that work therapy?
Well, it just depends on locations. For our addiction recovery programs, we have the thrift store, we have some of the ladies who will work in that. For our men, we have a pallet shop at the location that they're housed at, and they work there. We also have cleaning duties and organizational duties within the buildings that they help out with from time to time.
And what can Butler students specifically do to help? Are you in need of extra volunteers during the holidays?
We're always in need of volunteers. Like I said, we do have 400 open slots right now for our Drumstick Dash event that we would love to have filled, and any Butler student who's interested, we'd love to have them. We also have volunteering opportunities outside of the holiday season. We are a little busier now, but we see a lot of people who want to volunteer now, and not so much during the off seasons, spring through fall. So we'd love to see a lot more volunteering during that time period as well.
And what specifically can you do to volunteer?
Are you asking like what actions can they do, or where can they find the volunteer information?
What actions can they do?
Well, we do have a whole lot of different activities. The most basic would be serving a meal. We also have volunteering events, like we have the Drumstick Dash or any other event that we'd have. We need volunteers for those. We also have volunteering for just helpful with studies. Maybe if somebody is really skilled in financial areas, they could help volunteer in a financial course or a GED type course. They could also help volunteer leading Bible studies or chapel studies or worship services and things along those lines.
And how could someone sign up to volunteer it?
Well, the easiest way would be to go to our website, which is wheelermission.org. There's links along the side and along the top that'll get you connected to the right volunteering opportunity. That we have various different levels of volunteering as well, so whichever is right for you, we can get you connected to that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Good to be here.
Thank you for joining me on the Butler Beat. In our next segment, Sarvary Koller talks with the Director of the Diversity Programs in the Ephraimson Diversity Center at Butler. Valerie Davidson will be Sarvary's guest.
Welcome back to the Butler Beat. I'm Sarvary Koller. Diversity on a small campus like Butler can often be overlooked. Right down the street from downtown Indianapolis, Butler has much more diversity to offer than one might expect. Here to talk about diversity at Butler and in Indianapolis is the Director of Diversity Programs, Valerie Davidson. Thanks for being here, Valerie. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
So, not many people would describe Butler as a really diverse campus. What do you think of the campus diversity here?
I think that we're at a place where we definitely want our diversity to continue to increase. But having been here the number of years that I've been here on campus, I've seen where we've come from as an institution and where we were. I arrived here at Butler University back in the fall of 1986, right out of undergraduate school, and it was a part-time position that I accepted as coordinator of minority student affairs. And at the time, back in 1986, Butler was not very diverse at all. There were probably about 25 full-time residential ethnic minority or multicultural students on campus at the time. Very few, if any, international students. So the students who were here were very isolated in terms of having any type of support services or diversity programming on campus. There was none. So the position was one that I found to be an exciting challenge because at the time Butler was definitely in a building period as it related to diversity and trying to increase the diversity on the campus. The Office of Diversity Programs was created as a result of a task force that was commissioned by the president of Butler University back in 1982. His name was John Johnson. And he commissioned a task force that was made up of students, faculty, staff, and community members to look at and really study minority participation and involvement on all levels of the Butler University campus. And as a result of that task force, there were recommendations that were made. They looked at academics, they looked at programs and services, they looked at minority business procurement, they looked at faculty and staff, and the diversity amongst this, diversity or lack thereof amongst the faculty and staff, and they made recommendations on where the university should go, how they should move forward, and things that should be implemented to address those situations. So that's how the whole office was created, or the department was created. And I was pretty much given the opportunity to develop a program of diversity programs for support services for students of color on campus, multicultural students on campus. And that was, I think, a welcome challenge for me because, and I appreciated the confidence that the university had in me at the time, being fresh out of undergraduate school, but giving me the opportunity to use my education degree to help develop programming and support services for students of color on campus and really be on the ground floor of the implementation of diversity initiatives for the Butler University campus.
Okay. And you mentioned before that you've lived in Indianapolis your entire life. Did you actually attend school here at Butler for your undergraduate?
No, I did not. No, I did not. I am an IU alumnus.
Okay.
I went to North Central High School, but unfortunately, if you know something about the history of the university, we have, of course, with Butler being founded by an abolitionist, Ovid Butler, up until 1927, students of color were admitted every year at the university, and of course, the first graduate of color graduated back in 1888. So that far back into the 19th century, in Butler's infancy, we actually had students of color that were attending the university. Butler University was located in Irvington back in the 1920s.
Okay.
And if you know something about Indianapolis history or Indiana history, Irvington was also the home of D.C. Stevenson, who was the national grand dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. So he pretty much ran the Klan from his home, which still stands on the Irvington campus of the former Irvington campus in Butler University. And the house is still there. It's out on University Boulevard. But at any rate, he pretty much controlled Indiana government, Indiana politics. He, from what I understand, controlled the office of the mayor, controlled the governor. And around 1927, there was a resolution that was passed by the Board of Trustees that limited the number of students of color that could be admitted to the university to just 10 per year. So when I was ready to go to college, Butler University kind of had, amongst those of us who lived in Indianapolis, had the reputation of being a university that was not for students of color, for people of color living in Indianapolis, but basically had the reputation of being a university that was more for wealthy, out-of-state Caucasian students. And so we were not encouraged to even visit with the Butler recruiter when we had college night. We weren't at North Central, we weren't encouraged to even go and visit with the Butler recruiter. So it wasn't, even though I remember as a child coming here for performances at Clues Hall, I remember going to the basketball tournament, the high school basketball tournament with my family. But in terms of minority involvement and participation, within the campus community, there wasn't a lot, from the Indianapolis minority community because the reputation was out that we were, the Indianapolis minority community was not welcome at the university. Now that has changed over the years, and I think, I'm pleased to say that as an institution, since I've been here, I know we've really worked hard as an institution to change that image. And I think through the various programs that we offer, the diversity programs that are offered. I think there's been a lot more outreach to the Indianapolis community. I think as we have increased our enrollment of students of color and international students and addressed diversity issues, those barriers, those invisible barriers that have been built up over, that had been built up over the years between the Indianapolis diverse communities and the university, I think have been broken down.
And what differences do you see, since you have seen the beginning stages of the Diversity Center and how that's worked to promote diversity on campus? How has it grown to the point that it's at now?
I think, you know, it's interesting, before we opened the Ephraimson Diversity Center in 2006, we had a multicultural resource center that I had actually started in what used to be my office up in Atherton Union's 3rd floor, room 306. When I first started working at Butler, that was my office that was assigned to me. And then a few years after I was here on a full-time basis, they moved me to the Office of Student Affairs, room 200, where the Student Affairs suite is. And I was in there until we opened up the Ephraimson Diversity Center in 2006. We had, at that time in the old Multicultural Resource Center, we had about 6 different diversity organizations that were trying to share that one little small spot. So we have grown in a sense that when I first started working here, the only diversity organization on campus at the time when I first started was the Black Student Union, which was founded in 1984. So it was actually founded before I even started working here. Since that time, there have been more diversity organizations that have been formed because of the growth in enrollment. We were able to start more diversity organizations on campus. What I've seen since the Ephraimson Diversity Center has been open, what I'm the most pleased with is the fact that we now have a lot more student organizations and students collaborating, students coming together from different backgrounds, finding common ground within the Diversity Center. And it's a great location for students to just come and study, come to programs and events. There's a kitchen where they will go and they'll have lunch together or work on projects together, watch television, hang out. And we're finding that more and more students are starting to make the Diversity Center home. It's not just a place for students of color and international students, but I think more and more Butler University students, a broad demographic of students, are coming into the Diversity Center, are utilizing the space, and are getting to know people from different backgrounds. And I think that's part of our responsibility here at the university, those of us who work in administration, those of us who are faculty and staff, making sure that we're creating opportunities, to bring students together, because we are a campus community. And I think the more opportunities that we can make sure that we're bringing people together from different backgrounds, whatever those invisible barriers might be between students will be broken down. Because I think a lot of the fear of diversity stems from just the fear of the unknown. We get, I think, a lot of students come from various backgrounds and areas within the state and across the country where maybe in their communities they've had very little, if any, interaction or involvement with a student from a different race or culture or background. And so then when they come to a university like Butler, who we might not be, the most diverse campus, in the state of Indiana or in the country, but we do have diversity here. And if you've never had any experience interacting with people from diverse backgrounds and suddenly you're in an environment where it's a more diverse background, there's some adjustment that has to be made there. And I think a lot of times it's just not knowing, when you don't have experience, having that first opportunity to have those kind of interactions, I think makes a lot of difference in just breaking down those invisible barriers between people, between students, between people.
Okay. So you mentioned this fear of the unknown. I know something that's really commonly heard on the Butler campus is don't go by 38th Street, like steer clear. Do you feel like that's something that's rational and students should be scared of, or is it something, again, that they don't know anything about and it's that fear of the unknown?
I think part of it is the fear of the unknown, and I think part of it is what you've been told. I think when new students come to campus, students, upperclassmen, people are going to give them helpful hints about being safe, staying safe. And I think you have to remember that Butler University is, a beautiful campus in the middle of the largest urban area in the state of Indiana. You know, Indianapolis is the capital city of the state of Indiana. So we are an urban, you know, this is a major city, and we're right in the middle of it. And so it's not as if we're isolated, you know, on one side of the city or anything like that. We are right in the middle, you know, of the city of Indianapolis. And so we're surrounded by a neighborhood. And I think that a lot of times, basically, you have to apply safety precautions or security precautions, you know, and common sense, you know, anytime that you're going out. I don't think that it's unsafe for students to, you know, venture out or go beyond 38th Street. But I think that, you know, anywhere that you go, you have to make sure that you're being aware of your surroundings and that you have to use good judgment. And, you know, if you go out, I mean, anywhere that I go in the city, I will lock my car doors. I will try to be observant of my surroundings. I will try to make sure that if I'm going somewhere late at night that I'm not by myself, and if I am, you know, I try to make sure that I'm observing my surroundings. So I would like to think that maybe because of fear of the unknown, you know, some of those warnings are given, but at the same time, I think anywhere we go in this city, you know, if we're going up to Broad Ripple, which, you know, is a common, you know, popular hangout for Butler students, even going up to Broad Ripple, you still need to make sure that you are being cautious and careful, because we are in a major city and there's crime everywhere, unfortunately. I mean, I think in most major cities you're going to find that there's going to be pockets of crime everywhere, and Indianapolis is no different. You know, it happens, there are things that happen in Fishers, there are things that happen in Carmel, there are things that happen in Greenwood, there are things that happen in the inner city. Unfortunately, I mean, I think it's just all around us, and I think that that's just part of the world that we live in, and we have to be cautious and careful. I'm thinking those particular warnings about 38th Street, just part of that might be a little fear of the unknown, and part of it I think is maybe students and people just making sure that our new students to the area are being cautious and careful.
And because of the Butler bubble and we have all of these students that are together, do you feel like they are branching out and going into Indianapolis and kind of experiencing all of this diversity? Or do you think students get stuck here at Butler?
I think we've certainly created opportunities for them to get out and get beyond the Butler bubble. I think it's up to them as to whether or not, up to the individual as to whether or not they're taking advantage of that. So I'm hoping that people, you know, I see students taking the shuttle, you know, downtown to go downtown. I see people taking the shuttle to go up to Broad Ripple. I mean, I think that students do try to get, you know, off campus. But at the same time, I mean, I feel like we need to make sure that we are creating those opportunities, you know, to get our students outside of the Butler bubble, either, you know, for social reasons, for service projects, for cultural programs. I think that, you know, as students do have those opportunities to get out and see and experience different things that are going on in the Indianapolis community, then perhaps they may feel more comfortable venturing out on their own or with friends, you know, taking advantage of those opportunities
Definitely.
as well. Because there's always something going on in Indianapolis. I mean, we're not New York or Chicago or, you know, Washington, D.C. or some of the other, you know, like Los Angeles, some of the other major cities, but we're a major city, and there's always something that's happening here. And, you know, if you're a sports lover, you can certainly find plenty of sporting events to go to. You know, there are clubs, there are movies, there are malls, there are lots of restaurants. So, you know, this is an active city, and I think that there's plenty to do as long as you know, have those opportunities to experience it. And sometimes we have to create those opportunities here at the university for students. You know, give them those initial opportunities to experience the culture and atmosphere of Indianapolis, and then hopefully they'll start venturing out on their own.
Okay. And finishing up, could you kind of sum up what you have as far as hope in the future for the Diversity Center and diversity on campus?
Well, I'm hoping that our numbers will continue to grow. I think with any institution, you know, private institution such as Butler, I mean, there are different issues that sometimes can be an impediment to enrollment. And to increasing those numbers. I think one of the things that we fight with as an institution is affordability, and that's not just a problem that impacts students of color or, you know, diverse students on campus, but I think affordability issues can have an impact on all of our students here at Butler. Because as you know, it's not an inexpensive school, and you know, unfortunately our costs do go up every year. But we want to provide, as an institution, we try to provide, you know, the best services and the best experience that we can for you, and in doing that, the costs are going to increase. So I think that, you know, there are some issues that we do deal with in terms of, you know, increasing our enrollment, our diverse enrollment. But, you know, I'm hopeful that our enrollment will continue to increase. I know that we're seeing our numbers are just going through the roof in terms of participation in the Diversity Center. So, I mean, I want that to continue, but, you know, if that continues, I'm hoping that maybe we might be able to expand the center in the future. We've got like other diversity organizations that would have asked for office space down there. All of our offices are currently occupied by, we've got 7 student offices, and they're all occupied and they're all in use. So, you know, I'm not sure in the future if we can expand the center or not, but I would certainly love to do that and continue to increase our programming that we do every year. Last year we had over 400 programs that we you know, presented throughout the academic year in the Diversity Center, either sponsored or presented. So, you know, hopefully we'll continue to increase, you know, the programs and activities that we offer out of the center, and see, you know, more our diverse participation continue to increase as well.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Valerie.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on the Butler Beat. I'm Sarvary Koller.